So this is the Switch from my wife, and it has some drifting issues like so many out there, and I tried to fix this in this video. So that's the Switch in question, and I've ordered these pretty generic things you can get in Amazon nowadays for not much money. I ordered these mainly because they were a little bit more expensive than the others and have all the tools already with them. Didn't realize that there were actually two whole sets of these little joysticks included. So that's probably the main reason why they were a little bit more expensive than the other sets. Anyway, nice that basically everything is included in this little package that we're gonna need to repair this. And yeah, these are the little joysticks in question. So let's do this. But for this, we're gonna need the included tools like we see here, like a Phillips, a normal Phillips, and a 3-winged Phillips in this set included. I will put a link in the description, so maybe it's still out there when you're going to look. And then like this little plastic thingies, the black one that you can't really see because it's on sharp is actually from an iFixit set that I own. I thought it'd be a bit better than the blue one that was included in the set, at least for some tasks. So to open up the Joy-Con here, you actually have to use the 3-winged Phillips screwdriver that's in there. So the 1.5 3-winged Phillips, I think you call it 3-winged, yeah, 3-star, whatever. Anyways, yeah, you have to open up, get out the screws, put them aside so you don't lose them. The screws outside are different than we find inside of the Joy-Con. So I use this little plastic thing to try to pry the Joy-Con open on the seam. You can use like a guitar pick or your fingernails, something that hopefully doesn't break the plastic or leave dents or something. So open it carefully. You've got like these ribbon cables that are pretty fragile. And now we try to lift up this power connector. And I use this little tool from my iFix tools set because it's a little bit smaller and I get there easier. So after you've removed that, it snaps like into it, more like it's not plugged in, more like it snaps from the top. And after that you have to pry up the battery. It's held in with a little bit of glue, not too much, but you have to apply some force to get it off. In my opinion, it was still sticky enough to put it in again, and it was held in place. So right here, I'm removing a few screws too much. You only could get away with only doing like 2 of these 4 screws you see there. I removed 2 too much, so I will show that in a second again. So as well, be careful while lifting that up. There's another ribbon cable. They are very fragile, as I said, so put that aside carefully. And then we have to get to these little cable holders. You have to flip this one up to release it, and then really softly try to pull it away parallel to the board. Yeah, and put it aside. So here I'm putting back in the 2 screws that were not necessary, because they basically hold the little PCB in place, and I wanted to secure it back. These are, for these you need the 4-winged screwdriver. So here again, just lifting up this cable holder. Little snapping action. So something pointy is a little bit better than what actually was in that set, this big blue thing. Or your fingernail, if you manage. And then, yeah, pull it back carefully. So all the screws inside the Joycon are the four-winged 2.0 Phillips screwdriver you have to use. I don't really like to use a metal plier here, but I don't have anything else at hand. So be very careful with something like that to not like scratch the surface of the ribbon cables. Just like, yeah, carefully by pulling it back. So now just another, I think, 2 screws that hold the whole joystick assembled together, or better say in place. So while pulling out this little joystick, there is like this little plastic ring that kind of closes the gap, I guess, between the plastic of the shell and the joystick. So be careful not to pull too hard to rip that off, like you see there. It held back a little bit the joystick while I was pulling. So yeah. So here you see like the 2 joysticks in comparison, the new one and the old one. So the new one is with the orange ribbon cable. Okay. So now we don't just have to screw that back in and be a little bit careful here with the bumper button. That's not really held in place by anything else than just like the friction of the closed case of the whole assembly here. So if you're not careful, it will fall off. It's just like it did right there. You have to put that back in, but you can't really lose anything. There's a little spring, but in my case it just was held in place there, so there was no danger of losing it. So yeah, then again, just like you put it apart, so we put it back together again. It's so fiddly, everything here. So be careful by putting in back the screws. Don't overdo it. If they start gripping, that's normally enough with plastic. Otherwise, you are potentially in danger of breaking the plastic. So just hand tight is normally enough with these metal screws in plastic. So you see I try to put in the bumper back in place. It's just like one point where it all pivots that need to be in the case, and the spring needs to be in a certain place. You feel when it's in the correct position. Just try to keep it there, and when putting back together the case, it will hold the position. Yeah, that's a little tricky part again, putting these ribbon cables back into the thing. The weirdest part about it is you don't really feel when it's far enough in to like the connector. So you have to do that by eye basically, and you don't feel the resistance when you reach like the back of the connector. So that's what I'm getting at here. So you really have to do it more like visually. It gets in there, and then at one point just flip this thing over that holds it in place. And here again, be very careful, especially with the metal pliers, not to damage anything. But yeah, in this case it worked out well. You really can't have enough hands while trying to do this stuff. Yeah, but yeah, it kind of worked. So we put that back all over it again, and with it in the right position, it should hold in the little bumper button as well. It should really feel like it's sitting like a puzzle and everything. And then just put in the other screws. Now I'm checking if I'm having the correct screwdriver. We need again the 2.0 Phillips. Why do I always take the wrong one? I look at it 10 times and I choose the wrong one every time. So now we can put in the battery again. And yeah, in my case the adhesive was still kind of sticky enough to hold it in place. And another tricky part is to align this tiny connector, this tiny power connector. The whole cable is a little bit stiff and just doesn't want to do what you want to do. But if you do everything right, you get like a little satisfying click. So while the final step, be careful with the ribbon cables so that you don't pinch them between the two cases parts. That could destroy your Joy-Con basically if you're not careful in this last step. And then it's basically putting back together the last 4 screws. This time again with the 1.5 3-winged Phillips screwdriver. And again, don't overdo it, just hand tight screwing, and that should be enough. If you like put pressure on this Joy-Con and it's not squeaking anymore, then you probably are tight enough with the screws. So we're back now with the hopefully repaired Joy-Con, and it seems to work perfectly fine. And me also talking as well from the past, it worked perfectly. My wife is happy, no drifting issues anymore. So at least that worked out pretty well. And now we have to do the whole thing again for the right Joy-Con, because my wife was complaining with that one as well. So while at it, we're just doing it. So basically this nearly the same thing like the left Joy-Con, just a little bit different screw positions and stuff like that. But we do all the same again here, being careful prying this whole thing open. Again, be careful by opening it. There are little details different now in this Joy-Con. So again, the connector being tricky here. A few different screw positions here. Obvious what you have to do with the few screws that you can actually do here. There are not like on the other side screws that are unnecessary to all you can see you basically can open up. There we've got like an antenna we have to extra remove. Be very careful with the connector with these kind of antennas. Just pry them not too much on only one side. Try to pry them on several sides. It's a little round connector. As well, right, we saw there another cable that's very short, so you can't really open up it totally. You have to work on that last connector from the side. That's going to be a lot more difficult when trying to put it all together again. So hold same spiel again with the joystick, throw that away, put the new one in. The whole screws are exactly the same like on the left side. The ribbon cables, same technique. So if you have done it correctly on the left side, you should be able to do that pretty easily with the right Joy-Con as well. There again, flip this connector, and again the bumper button in my case flew away, so yeah, to put that in. That's the tricky part. You have to do in this half closed position to get that ribbon cable in, but it was manageable. But yeah, you have to be careful with all the cables.
I did it.
And in place. So, and then it's just like putting back in the battery. And but before that, not to forget the little antenna. I guess it's the Bluetooth antenna.
There.
Or Wi-Fi, I don't know, I'm not sure. I mean, it's weirdly you don't see it on the left Joy-Con, but you see it on the right. So I guess it's the Wi-Fi antenna. Yeah. Put that all together. It might be a good idea while doing this whole operation to maybe even get new batteries while you're at it. But as you see, everything kind of works. Yeah, would have been clever for me to, while at it, change the batteries as well. But hey, now I know how it works and probably can do it easily again. So it all worked out pretty well with this switch. Yeah, we'll see if I have to do that with my Switch Lite sooner or later. I hope this video in some way helped, and thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, obviously, that's always nice, and yeah, hope you could repair your Switch too. Thanks again for watching, and of course, keep on gaming. Chris out.